We all know that because of the war with Iran, fuel prices have increased sharply around the world, including right here in Canada. So we're taking more action to help build that bridge over short-term pressures. With the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Natural Resources, we're announcing today that Canada's new government will temporarily suspend the federal fuel excise tax from next Monday until Labor Day.
Welcome to the Political Orphans. My name is Nico Lagan. Today, Mark Carney temporarily suspended the federal excise tax on gas, and that until Labor Day. This means that Canadians can expect to save 10 cents per litre. But what he does not want you to know is that the federal excise tax is only one of many taxes Canadians pay on gas. We have the clean fuel standard, which is about 7 cents per litre. And of course, we pay the GST, which is a tax on top of another tax. So 5% tax on top of gas that already has taxes in it. And not to forget, Canadians pay on average about 20% more at the pump than Americans due to taxes alone. 28 cents. This is what the estimates are. 28 cents is what we pay more at the pump because of taxes. 28 cents. We have the third largest gas reserve in the world, yet we pay over 28 cents more a litre. And depending where you live, it gets worse because you are also paying between 9 to 20 plus cents a litre in provincial taxes. So Mark Carney wants us to celebrate because he is giving us 10 cents back of our own money. But this is the same guy that 2 weeks ago, not even, on April 1st, raised the industrial carbon tax on us, which affects every single products and services out there. Yet we're supposed to celebrate. Give me a break. Give me a break. But this is not the real story. This is not what I want to talk about today. This is just a distraction, keeping Canadians away from the new Canadian reality. As of yesterday, the Liberals officially, on paper, have their majority. That's the story we need to talk about. But not only do we need to talk about that story, we need to talk about what it actually means. Because for the average Canadian, that might not mean much. But the reality is that they won the 3 by-elections. They now have 174 seats. That's the same government that is more concerned about pushing surveillance and censorship bills like C8, C9, C12, C16, C22, C25 than they are about addressing the real problems Canadians are facing, like, let's say, the economy, house affordability, cost of living, healthcare access. Now have the power to pass all the legislation that they can dream of. That should worry Canadians. I don't care who you are. You should be very worried that a government like Carney's Liberals now have a majority to do pretty much whatever they want. And today, I want to show you a glimpse of what's coming. And that's just a glimpse. That's just what I can come up with right now that I can prove is coming. So let's have a look at what happened last week. Not sure if you were aware of this, but the Liberals had their national convention right here in Montreal. There's a few videos that came out of that convention that are hard to believe. You know what? I can't say hard to believe because it's not hard to believe, but it is very problematic to say the least. First, we spoke about this on Sunday. They adopted a non-binding motion banning anyone under the age of 16 from accessing social media. That doesn't mean that it's now law or that it's becoming law as we speak. They are just virtue signaling their intent that they want to ban anyone under the age of 16 from accessing social media. If you don't understand why this is problematic, I did a deep dive on Sunday, so I suggest you go check it out. Check the live I published on Sunday under the name of Using Your Kids to Build a Surveillance State, the New Liberal Social Media Ban. I break it all down as someone that worked in the telecommunication world for over 2 decades. Let's call it 2 decades. Second, we need to talk about a man by the name of Patrick Pichette. If you do not know who that guy is, it's okay, I got you. He is a businessman. He was a business executive, venture capitalist, and he was the former Google chief financial officer. Why am I talking about him? Because of what he said. He touched on two very interesting topics. One being what he believes we should do if Canadians try to leave the country. Second, his take on immigration. So let's start at the beginning. Let's see what Patrick Pichette had to say about Canadians leaving the country in order to go study in the US.
And on the other side of it, let me give a bit of a sober on the protect side. So let me give you a few facts. In Canada, the minute you have your degree, if it's a professional degree, right, there's something in the Canada kind of free trade agreement. I got the wrong acronym, but you get it. It's called the TN program. So Microsoft, I finished from University of Waterloo with my computer degree. Microsoft phones me, offers me a job, 300 grand a year, right? All I have to do is show up at the border, apply for a TN visa, right? And I get this 3-year, like no questions asked, it costs $30. And now I move to Microsoft. We as Canadians have subsidized my education to the tune of, you pick the number, $500,000, right? 500,000. And if it's a graduate student, go up, right? 30,000 TN go to the US every year. You want to save yourself $5 to $10 billion? Shut the TN program. And then keep them in, or make them pay their $500,000 so that if they leave, I'm okay with that. You want to go to the US? Give me back my money. Like my dad, my mom, you all work every day to offer them their education. So we need both sides. We need to fight on one side to make sure that we bring the very best talent of the world because they all want to come here now. It's absolutely wonderful. But you can't have this sieve on the other side. You can't let $5 billion or $10 billion a year of your hard-earned cash so that Microsoft can get smarter.
$500,000. That is what he wants to charge our youth for leaving Canada. I don't know for you, but this is absolutely insane. The irony of it all is that this man that wants to charge our youth $500,000 for wanting to go to the US lives in Europe. He's worth over $250 million. And guess where he made his fortune? In the US. By working for Google. This is the man that's telling us our youth needs to pay $500,000 to leave to go work in the US. The worst part about this is that I know for a fact that there are people out there that do believe it's a good idea. And I want you guys to tell me, what do you guys think about this? Do you think it makes any sense for us to charge our youth $500,000 because we subsidize their education? So let's forget the hypocrisy and just look at his statement. Because we subsidize their education, they owe us. Okay, sure. Why not ask the question? Why not ask the question, why are they leaving Canada? Shouldn't that be the question? Because trying to deal with the money they cost us is dealing with the symptoms. We're not dealing with the problem. So why are they leaving Canada? That's the question. They know why. Because they destroyed the economy. And it makes no sense for them to stay here. But that's not the only thing he said. Because right after the video ended, the one I just showed you, he said the following, talking about immigration. Listen to what he had to say about immigration.
A lot of countries are competing for this talent right now. So I absolutely applaud your efforts. You need to triple whatever is in your head today.
There's a lot in my head.
And a lot of countries are.
He wants us to triple our immigration. Triple our immigration. Do you guys know the numbers? I've showed them here. But do you guys remember what happened to our population over the past 25 years? Because he's talking about tripling our immigration. And if you look at the graph right here, look at all the way at the bottom where Canada is. 25 years ago, we had a population of 30 million. In 2024, it was 41 million. That is a growth of about 35% over the span of 25 years. As per the latest reports, our birth rate right now is 1.25. It was 1.5 in the 2000s. It was 1.25 in 2024. And estimates are saying that it's worse in 2026. So how is it possible that we grew our population by 33% over the past 25 years if it takes a birth rate of 2.1 in order to maintain our population? Think about it. That means 100% of that 34.5% increase we saw over the past 25 years is coming from immigration. And he wants us to triple that. That means we're looking at 35 million give or take, over the next 75 years? 33 million. Non-Canadian. Living in Canada. On top of the 41 that's here. That's his solution. A guy that's worth $250 million that doesn't live in Canada, that made his money in the US, is telling us that we need to charge our youth $500,000 for leaving Canada to go to the US. And we need to triple our immigration. This is who the Liberals had as a keynote speaker. And there's one more video I have to show you. One more. It comes from Mark Carney's wife. Because Mark Carney obviously spoke about our relationship with the US, how it's done. We need to move past that. Our biggest customer, biggest ally, we need to stop doing business with them, is basically what he wants. But listen to what his wife was saying. My apology. Here is the video.
Of intergenerational dinner table conversations being sparked by its contents, of new possibilities opening up in its wake, of Canada being the nation that is helping to define and shape a new world order. And more than a few people have told me that they can now sleep at night knowing that Mark is leading our country. Of intergenerational dinner table.
New World Order. New World Order at the Liberal Convention. This is what she's talking about. She's continuing the speech her husband gave in Davos at the WEF. And people are cheering for that. How many of you out there actually feel, or sorry, using your word, sleep better at night knowing that Mark Carney is our prime minister? That's what she claims. So the people running this country are more concerned about the New World Order, censorship, mass immigration, and preventing us from leaving Canada than they are about the 40% of Canadians that are struggling financially. These are the people in power. These are the ones that just got their majority. So what you're hearing right now is just a glimpse of what's coming. You know, it's hard sometimes to not be negative. But we have to. And what's even more important is that for the people like us that understand what's going on, that can see what's coming, we need to educate our fellow Canadians with the truth. Because most of them are still sleeping. So it's up to us to extend the olive branch and have those hard conversations. So before we start having this conversation, I want to ask you 4 questions. I want to know what you think. First, what do you think we should do about our gas prices? Second, what do you think about banning 16 and under from social media? Third, what do you think about charging our youth $500,000 for wanting to go work in the US? Finally, what do you think about Carney's wife bringing up the New World Order? those are the questions I have for you tonight. So hit the comment section. Let me know what you think, because we're going to start addressing it. We want to have those conversations. Before we do, we need to talk about something new, because this show is all about your participation, your questions, your comments, and I decided to take it to the next level. I want you guys on the show. Comments are great. They will always be the cornerstone of this show, but nothing beats a real conversation. So imagine if I took your calls live, just like they do on AM Talk Radio. I call it the Orphans Hotline. This will give you the chance to have your voice heard with nothing more than your phone. All we need is one piece of equipment called the Rodecaster Pro 2. And turns out that it's on sale right now. Until the end of the month, it's going for $819 plus tax. But I can't do it alone. I need your help. We currently have $150, but we need another $800 to buy it. So if you want to participate, you want to be part of this, go to thepoliticalorphans.com/hotline and let's make the Orphans Hotline a reality. So let me ask you those questions again. What do you think we should do about our gas prices? What do you think about banning social media for teens under 16? What do you think about charging our youth $500,000 for wanting to go work into the US? And what do you think about Mark Carney's wife bringing up the New World Order? And what does she mean by it? First, let's take this comment from Jane Doe. This is not the time to worry. That was a long time ago. Now it is the time to be ready to escape or to go ground. Probably to go underground. So do you think it's too late? Because that's what I'm getting from your message. That it's too late for Canada. Do you guys agree? I don't agree. There's always a way to fight. The road's going to be hard, but it's always possible. Jason, Uncensored, is saying, we have no choice but to ride it out. We have no choice but to ride out the storm until the next election. Why do you think that matters? Do you believe that the Conservative would do anything different? Do you believe that we have two different parties right now? What makes you believe that Pierre Poilievre doesn't work for the same people that Mark Carney does? What has he done? Even as the leader of the opposition, what has he done to make you believe that he would do anything different than Mark Carney? And that's an honest question. I believe it's a uniparty. There's no difference between the left and the right. It's a lie. They're just trying to divide us. But I'm curious. Why do you think the Conservatives are different than the Liberals? Stu, thank you once again for the tip. Pichette lives in the UK and left Canada. Who the fuck is he to comment? That was my whole point. It's a man that doesn't live in Canada that tells us we need to triple our immigration and that we need to prevent our children, our youth, from leaving the country to go work in the US by taxing them $500,000. That's a man that made his fortune in the US. That's the irony. But you know what it is. But you know how it is too. There's a different rules for them than for the commoners. That's the reality. But thanks again for the tip, brother. Let's take some of your comments. Oh, there you go. There's one right here. Let's take this one. Sheridan Forbes. Pierre will not cut spending fast enough or cut taxes meaningfully enough. China owns a lot of Canadian resources and real estate, which it will do nothing about. I agree. That's how I see it too. So Karen Moore. One sitting in Parliament are all corrupt. There are all. That's how I see it too. I agree. I agree to 100. 100. That's exactly how I do. That's some. Seems like I lag, or I'm still lagging here. No. How is it showing up for you guys? If you guys want to leave me some comments here, I'm just curious to see if it's lagging on your side. Let me see here. I believe, let me see. I believe I might have fixed the looks on your side. Oh, looks good for me. Okay, perfect. So it looks like everything is good now, but you guys please confirm that everything is good on your side. Jenny Stewart is saying too many still have their heads in the sand. Yeah, Jenny, I totally agree. I completely agree with you. Unfortunately, that's a reality. But like I was saying earlier, it's up to us, the people that, I don't want to say that know better, that know more, that have their eyes open to extend the olive branch. Jason Levine said it best months ago when he said, as a conservative, you should go hug a liberal. I'm not saying that you're a conservative. All I'm saying is it's up to us that knows what's going on, that knows what's coming, to have those hard conversations with our families, our neighbors, because that's all where it starts. Most of us have a tendency to think about Canada federally, like the whole Canadian country. But that's not how you change Canada. You change Canada one community at a time. And how do you change your community? By being involved in that community, being a voice in that community. I had a buddy of mine years ago. He was offered to run for both the Conservative Party and the Liberal Party. On the federal level, he said no, he wasn't interested. He didn't even follow federal, the federal elections. He didn't even follow a lot of federal politics, because in his mind, all that mattered was his community, where he lived, because that's where his life is affected every single day. And I agree with him. It sounded strange to me years ago when he said so, but now I totally agree with him. And that's how we need to see it too. So yes, too many people have their heads in the sand. I totally agree with you, Jenny. But at the same time, it's up to us to wake them up. And we wake them up by having those hard conversations, having even those conversations that we're having as we speak right now, just to be able to open the door to speak about it, to be ready to speak about it. Because I don't know for you guys, I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, And there's three subjects you don't talk about. At least that's what I was raised to believe. You don't talk about money, you don't talk about politics, and you don't talk about religion. Yet every single person out there has an opinion on those three. Good, bad, there's no gray area when it comes to those subjects. Everybody has an opinion, yet we're told not to talk about it. And that's exactly why we end up in a country like today where we believe the lie that we're being told that there's a difference when it comes to Canadians, that the left should hate the right and the right should hate the left. This is nonsense. This is just the people running this country, the elites out there trying to control us. They divide us. Divide and conquer is the oldest technique in the book. And we still fall for it. So it is up to us to reach out and help wake them up. So I ask my questions again. What do you think that we should do about our gas prices? What do you think about banning social media for anyone under the age of 16? And what do you think about charging our youth a $500,000 exit tax for leaving Canada to go work in the US? Finally, what do you think that Mark Carney's wife meant by the New World Order? Because I've heard a lot of different theories as, oh, the New World Order just means that the world is coming into something new because we're forced in it. Trump is forcing us into the New World Order. Do you think that's what she meant? What do you think she meant by New World Order? The same thing as Mark Carney, what he said in Davos, Switzerland at the WEF conference. Wilf, brother, I agree with you 100%. No, it's never too late. It's never too late. It's never too late. All that happens is that the actual road becomes harder and harder, but it's never too late. Jay Reynolds, it's the uniparty. Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree. Same thing for Danos is saying two wings of the same bird. Yeah, just different color. The wings are a bit of a different color, but it is the same bird. I agree. Well, see, that's a good one that I definitely want to address. Bacon Slayer 69 is saying that the elections are rigged, Jason. I asked that question yesterday. Does your vote really matter? Because just think about the floor crossings that we've been seeing since November. We've had 5 floor crossings up to now. 4 of them was Conservative, 1 was NDP. And they were elected as Conservatives. One of them was elected as an NDP, yet they get to change camp whenever they want. This has been going on forever in Canada. This is nothing new. Never in the history of Canada did we have a government form a majority because of it. But you don't even need to believe what Bacon Slayer 69 believes. I also believe that our leaders are selected. They're not elected. But you don't even need to believe what I believe. You don't even need to believe what Bacon Slayer 69 believes to realize that there is a problem with our election system when the people that we elect get to change camp whenever they want. Because it's a lie to believe that people vote for the MP himself or for the candidate themselves. Most of us have no idea. Unless you follow politics and you really pay attention, most people have no clue who the person they're voting for really is. All they care about is the color they represent. Which party do they represent? We don't elect candidates. We elect political parties in Canada. That's a reality. So how can you not believe that your vote... How can you believe that your vote matters if the person that you elect to represent you can change team anytime they want? Right then and there shows you that your vote doesn't really matter. And that's a reality. That's the reality we're all facing right now. Cat McGunty, that's an interesting name. Cat McGunty 8108 is saying that we will never be a conservative government again in Canada, a real conservative party. Thank you for adding the second part, for adding a real conservative party, because it's all a matter of perspective as to what you consider to be a conservative. And you know what? Let me ask you this. Kat McGunty, if you're still there, what do you consider to be conservative values? Because that's a problem that I see in Canada, and I believe that that's what you're saying as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you're basically saying that Canada will never see a real conservative government because there's no such thing as real conservative or a real conservative party in Canada. And I agree with you 1,000%. You know how many times I've asked so-called conservative content creators out there what it means to be conservative, what it is, what are conservative values? And most of them are not conservative whatsoever. They're liberals. Like our conservative party, if you look at the Overton window, our conservative party is on the left. Like Pierre Poilievre is a liberal. He's not a conservative by any stretch of the imagination. One of the best ways to spot a conservative is his views on abortion. You cannot be a conservative and be pro-abortion. Just that splits people from being a liberal and a conservative. This is one of the number one thing that liberals, real liberals and real conservatives don't agree on. Are you pro-life or are you pro-abortion? Which is why the latest woman, I forget her name, that crossed over to the Liberal Party last week is so hypocritical, because she ran as a pro-lifer, yet now she joined a party that is out loud about being pro-abortion. But let's not lie to each other. Pierre Poilievre has said in the past that he was also for the woman's choice, meaning he's pro-abortion. But what does it mean, Kat McGunty, to be conservative? And the question applies to all of you out there. What does it mean to be a conservative? What do you think it means to be a conservative? Yeah, see, well, there you go. See, right then and there, that's a great point. Blaine 8094 is saying no biological males in women's sports or bathrooms. This is such a no-brainer to me. This has nothing to do with politics. This is common sense. Has nothing to do with politics. Men have no business in women's bathrooms, and men have no business in women's sports. Cutting off your penis doesn't make you a woman. You're still a dude. You're just a dude without a dick. I don't remember which movie said it, but there's no such thing as a woman with a penis, just men with boobs. And that is 100% accurate. It is absolutely true. But to prove the point I was making about Pierre Poilievre, he doesn't even have the audacity to come out and say that there's only two sexes. He doesn't even have the balls to talk about no biological males in women's bathroom. I've had this discussion behind the scene with some of the biggest names in, I don't want to say the anti-trans movement, but the women that are in sports that try to bring back Canada to a time where men competed against men and women competed against women. And that is one of their biggest problem with Pierre Poilievre, is that he doesn't have the balls to actually go out there and say that there's only two sexes and men don't belong in women's sports or their bathrooms. Yet, if you look at the US in the last election when Trump was reelected, there's a lot of political commentators that believe that the reason Trump won is because he took a stance on women and men in women's sports, that he said no to it, that he stopped pushing that trans agenda. Love or hate Trump is beside the point. I'm not talking personality here. All I'm saying is something as simple as this gave him the election. That's what a lot of political scientists, a lot of political commentators believe happened during the last election, and I would agree. I would completely agree. It's such an easy one. It's such a no-brainer. That is a conservative value right there, to say no to men and women's sports. No-brainer. And again, it's not even political. It shouldn't be political. It is a very big problem that this is a political issue, because it definitely isn't a political issue. Yeah. See, I would imagine that Republic of Alberta is probably referring to my question about immigration, or about my comments about immigration, because he's saying they're erasing our culture, history, and our people. Wake up. 30 million was the numbers. I still have them right here. In 2000, our population was 30,685,000 Canadians. In 2024, our population had increased to 41,288,000. That is a 34.6% increase, 100% by immigration. Because what did I say earlier? Our birth rate in 2000 was 1.5. The last report that came out was talking about 2024, and our birth rate was 1.2. And it takes a birth rate of 2.1 in order to just maintain our population. So you know that the only growth we're getting right now is because of immigrants. And I saw some numbers that were even indicating, if you were looking at Canadians, Canadian borns, 2-generation Canadians. So basically your parents were born in Canada and you were born in Canada. Over in 2024, when they released the new numbers that were showing 1.2, 1.5, 1.25 birth rate for Canadians, the Canadian born, where their parents were born here, they were born here, we had a 1.2 negative birth rate. So basically 100% of our birth rate in Canada either comes from immigration directly, or our my apologies, let me rephrase that. 100% of our population increase came from immigration, mass immigration. Obviously, 34.6% and 34.6% increase in 25 years. That's mass immigration. But our immigration is the reason why our population is growing. And the solution, it seems like, is to bring more immigrants. And I agree with Republic that the end goal is to erase our culture. You know, this is a great question. Let me ask you guys that. I've asked you, what do you guys believe is a conservative? What's a Canadian? Define to me what it means to be Canadian, because that's a question I ask people very often. And a lot of the answers that I get is not being American, which is absolutely idiotic because we are North Americans after all. But not being something should not define what you are. So what does it mean to be a Canadian? This is how much our culture, our values have been erased. Is that the average Canadian doesn't even understand, cannot even tell you what it means to be Canadian anymore. I gotta say, this is a great name. Absolutely love your name. I didn't even read your message, your comment before taking it. I should have. But Hélène Degenerate. That is such a great name. As someone who owns a diesel truck and multiple hot rods, the fuel prices are ridiculous. Thinking of packing up. Oh, shit. Thinking of taking up drug sales as a side gig, peddling pharmaceuticals. I could be just like Justin Trudeau in 2021. I shouldn't laugh at that, but you're absolutely right. It's a diesel. It's insane. The price of diesel is even worse than the increase is even worse than the price of gas. not even jet fuel. I don't know if you guys have been looking at this, but I talked about it. I think it was last week or the week before. I did a full breakdown of the gas prices and jet fuel as something. It's the estimates that I've seen for Canada is 85 to 100%, 120% increase over 1 month, the beginning of March to the beginning of April. 85 to 120. So let's call it 100%. It doubled over the span of a month. It's insane. The prices are absolutely insane. And that's considering that we have the third largest oil reserve in the world. And we're still dependent on world markets. Oh, there you go. Thank you, Wilf. I really appreciate this. This is something that I love to bring up. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to do it. Wilf is saying that November 7th showed he supported the censorship bills. He is referring to Pierre Poilievre. This is something I've mentioned so many times to conservatives. Because on November 7th, 2025, last year, they were debating the new liberal budget that had been tabled. The Bloc Québécois had proposed amendments. So they were voting against the liberal budget. So was the Green Party, one person. But if the Conservatives would have voted in favor of the Bloc Québécois amendments, meaning that they would have voted against the liberal budget, they would have triggered an election because they did not have a majority. So the Liberals would have lost they would have lost. It was the NDP, my apologies. It was the NDP that was against it. So it was the Bloc, the NDP, meaning that they had what they needed to beat the Liberals. Yet Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives voted in favor of the budget. They voted against the amendments that could have brought down Carney's government, forced an election. Remember, you might not remember this because this was not talked about in mainstream media. I talked about it a lot because I watch those debates, but nobody talked about it because 10 days after or the week after, Pierre Poilievre and Andrew Scheer made they made it look like, oh, we're voting against the liberal budget right now. We're standing against it, while voting in favor of it the week after when it mattered. But by then, they already had made a deal with the Bloc Québécois, and that was what the Bloc wanted to pass Bill C-9. So they already made a deal. It didn't matter anymore. When it did matter, Pierre Poilievre voted in favor of the Liberal Party, keeping the Liberal Party in power instead of triggering an election. And if you remember, Pierre Poilievre was saying that we want an affordable budget, not a costly election. Do you remember that? That's why he was saying this, because he was kind of explaining or protecting himself by saying that Canadians don't want to pay for another election. We just had one in April. It's November. We don't want to pay for this again. So we want an affordable budget. But the part that most people don't realize is that in November, Bill C-9 was still in the House of Commons. It was still being debated. Bill C-2 was still being debated. I believe Bill C-8 was still being debated. Bill C-12, I'm pretty sure, was still being debated as well. And what happens when you trigger an election? All those bills that are being discussed that are in the House of Commons, they all get canceled. That's what happened to Bill C-63, if you remember, under Justin Trudeau, when he left the party as the leader of the Liberal Party. When he left, Bill C-63 got canceled. And that's why we're not hearing about it anymore. We're going to soon hear about it soon, because they will table another one now that they have their majority, and they're going to do it under the guise of, I guarantee you that social media ban for people under 16 is going to be part of the new Bill C-63, the Online Harms Act. They're going to call it something like the Online Protection Act. They're going to make it sound more positive, but the point is that they would have been able, not only would they have triggered an election, they would have canceled all of those bills and they would have had to start again. So I agree. You're absolutely right. By voting in favor of the budget, they prove that they stand for censorship bill. I agree with you 100%. Your logic is the same logic that I believe. Yeah. And, you know, this is a problem. This is the biggest problem that Canada faces. We don't face a liberal versus conservative problem. That's not what we're facing in Canada. We're facing a politician problem. And Karen Moore is absolutely right. Everyone sitting in parliament are all corrupt. They're all the same. Obviously, there's some people that are more corrupt than others. But let's agree that if you know the people around you are all corrupt and you don't do anything about it, you don't expose them for being corrupt, you're no better than they are. You're protecting them. You're protecting your job. You're protecting them. But at the end of the day, those politicians are supposed to work for us. They're elected. I'm air quoting. If you're just listening to the MP3, I'm air quoting right now. But they're elected to represent the people. When's the last time, as a Canadian voter, that you felt represented, that you felt that the leader you elected actually cared about you, cared about your problems, cared about making your life better, your life, your neighbor's life, your wife, your family's life? When's the last time you had that feeling that politicians actually cared? I don't remember. Personally, I don't remember last time. I really don't. And that's the problem. The problem is that we elect people that don't care to go to Ottawa to supposedly speak in our favor, working for parties that are all the same. They all work for somebody else than Canadians. Could be themselves, could be overseas powers, but they definitely don't work for us. This is why I was saying earlier that we change Canada by changing communities, by having leaders in those communities that are educating the people, that are leading those people, that are building teams to help their community, and we organize them. This is what I'm all about. This is what the Political Orphans nonprofit organization I started with Payman Ascari is all about, to bring Canadians together in order to take back Canada one community at a time. Because the reality is, what's true in Quebec or Ontario or in the Maritimes is not necessarily true in Alberta and the West. Because all communities are somewhat different, but we're still all Canadians. But who knows better than somebody that lives in that community, somebody that is a hardworking Canadian? I'm not talking about a businessman. I'm not talking about a career politician. I'm talking about just a hardworking, regular Canadian that just wants to put food on the table to feed his family. This is who I'm talking about. Obviously, most of them don't have the skills in order to become leaders, but that's where we come in. This is the whole point of the Political Orphans. I know for a fact that if we put enough smart people in the same room, we can figure out solutions to all the problems that we face in Canada. And not only can we figure out solutions, but we can find how to implement them. Because that's the goal. At the end of the day, we need to be organized. And that's something that's you can see on the left. And I'm not making it left versus right here. I'm just showing that if you look at more the left ideology, they're very, very organized. They talk the same message. It doesn't matter that you're looking, whatever mainstream media you're looking at. It doesn't matter if you're looking at content creators. It doesn't matter if you're looking at most politicians. They all talk the same thing. They all have the same talking points. They all sound the same because they're organized. They all spew the same message. They all talk about the same things. And that's why it's important to organize. But this is the same thing we need to do if we want to bring Canada back. But it all starts with education. This is why I do what I do right now. This is why we're having those conversations right now. But I invite you, everybody that's listening to this, live or not, to have those conversations with the people in your family, the people in your neighborhood, the people, your friends. Get involved on the community level. Know who your mayor is. Know who works for your mayor. If you have kids in the school system, know who sits on the school board. Get to know those people. If you don't like what you see, replace them. Try to run for office in those communities. I'm not saying to go provincial. I'm not saying to go federal. I'm talking municipal, because that's how it starts. Man, there is so many comments. You guys have no idea how much I appreciate this. There's so many comments. There's hundreds and hundreds, if not 1,000 comment here. It's absolutely insane. You have no idea, guys, how I appreciate this, how I love these comments, and why I'm so happy that we're going to be taking 30 minutes every day, every time, every show. We're going to be taking at least 30 minutes. Today, we were almost 35, almost 40 minutes. But this is what I want this show to become, to really, we speak about one topic, we do a deep dive on that topic, and then we take comments. That's really, really what the goal of the show is, to really have those conversations with you guys. And as I said earlier, I really want to take this to the next level. I really want to be able to hear from you guys. This show is all about participation. It's all about your questions, your comments, but I really want to take this to the next level. Like I said earlier, I want to be able to hear you. I want to be able to have those one-on-one conversations like they do on the AM talk radio shows. So if you're interested in making that happen, please consider helping me, helping you get the equipment we need in order to make that happen. And as I said earlier, the Rodecaster Pro 2 is the exact piece of equipment we need to make it happen. So if you're interested, you want to make that a reality, you want to make the Orphan Hotline a reality, consider donating. Consider helping out. Go to thepoliticalorphans.com/hotline and let's make it a reality. I'm just looking at my emails before I let you guys go. I'm just looking at the emails that I received during the show, and it seems that we got a new donation for the Rodecaster. It came from Wildflower. I appreciate it. She is one of our regulars. You're always here. I really, really appreciate your support. So thank you very much for your support. Hopefully she inspires you guys to do so. On that note, it's 8 o'clock on the dot. I want to thank every single one of you. Thank you for being here. Like the stream, comment on the stream, subscribe if this is your first time here. If you're on X, you're on other social media that I stream to, consider joining the conversation on our YouTube channel. We have two of them, at Real Nico Lagan, that's mine. We have at the Political Orphans. Either one is great. And remember, this is important because we talked about this a lot today. We're going to talk about it more and more. But our politicians are not the solution. We are the solution. And it's not too late for Canada. But regular, hard working Canadians need to step up to the plate and start leading. We need to stop complaining and start leading. So if you're interested to be part of a citizen-led movement to bring back Canada to what it used to be, one community at a time, consider joining us at thepoliticalorphans.com. I wish you a good night, and I will see you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We do have a guest, and we will be speaking about the vaccine injury program that was brought back to the government. It was handled by a private firm. The government took it back, and we're going to be speaking with someone that was vaccine injured, that the vaccine injury program refused to help. So she's going to tell us her story, and she's going to tell us what she came up with, because she became basically an investigative journalist ever since her injury. So join us 7 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. Until then, have a good night. I'll see you then.